Hello, and welcome to another episode of Sincerely Agile with Mary. Now, on this platform, we're here to facilitate the growth mindset because we know that everyone is highly resourceful so that you can tap into that for your personal and professional growth. Now, today I'm excited because we have a topic that is a huge subject that we're talking about on the internet a lot amongst ourselves as professionals, and it is evolving the PMO. And who better to join me than the man who wrote the book on it? And this is Sanjiv Augustine, and he's just going to join me now. Hello, Sanjiv.
Hi, Mary. Pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
So nice to have you, Sanjay. Thank you for making the time to join me today. Now, Sanjay, we're looking at evolving the PMO. And for me, this is an important topic to talk about because today we're talking about agile, we're talking about, the environment being a VUCA world and how things have changed over time. So I am really, really looking forward to you dissecting this for us. But however, before I continue, I would like to read out your bio so
hmm
that our audience can get to know you better. So here we go. Sanjiv Augustine is the founder and CEO of Lightspeed, a world leading agile training and consulting company and an industry leading agile, lean, and digital transformation expert. He was a co founder of the PMI Agile Community of Practice and the Agile Leadership Network. He is the author of the books Managing Agile Projects, Scaling Agile, and From PMO to VMO. Sanjiv presents regularly at several agile and project management conferences. Now, Sanjiv, that is an impressive bio, but a very, very brief one and very, very work focused. So, when you're not working, what are you doing other than work?
There's a lot to do over here in our private life. I live in the Washington D.C. metro, so there's everything to do from riding my bike. I do some hiking when I get a chance, and then since I have a school-age child, we have dad and parenting duties to take care of that. So lots of things to do and quite busy.
Cool. We're streaming on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. It is such a pleasure to have you on Sincerely Agile with Mary. We are really, really looking forward to the conversation we're going to be having today. Now, my first question, and one that I'm always asking, especially when people are coming from the Agile space, how did your Agile journey start?
All right, for this we have to do a little bit of a trip down memory lane, right? So
Okay.
the Agile Manifesto was signed in 2001. And about a few months, about a year or so before that, I had been working with a team here locally in the Washington, D.C. area. And we had started implementing the Agile methodology that many of our listeners might not have heard about, but the one that they should certainly look into. And that is called extreme programming or
I've
XP.
heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So XP. So what had happened was that I had just left a job in a management consulting company and gone back a little bit to the technology side of things. And I was hired as the project manager for three XP teams, extreme programming teams.
Right.
And my journey started as in I looked at these teams and they were delivering really good value, but they needed a little bit of alignment and they needed a little bit of much more actually focus on the customer, so customer focused solutions. But then I looked at the traditional project management approaches and they just didn't align. So if you look at the XP teams, there's the short delivery, and it was radical in those days to deliver in 2 weeks. We call them iterations. Now we call them sprints, of course, in Scrum. But we had gone from long waterfall cycles, and these teams were churning around and they're really delivering quickly. And so the traditional methods of project management, whether it's Gantt charts or putting together a project management plan, which is, of course, different from a project management schedule, those things didn't align really well. So I started looking at things that we could do that would fit the way that these Agile or XP teams worked into an overall framework of project management or program management or just management and delivery. So that's how I started. And one of the things that happened sort of serendipitously, or was sort of blessed, if you will, being in the right place at the right time, the company I was working for called in Ron Jeffries and Bob Martin to coach us on XP. So, I mean, these gentlemen, of course, as you know, are authors of the Agile Manifesto. So I had first-hand direct access to two authors to the Agile Manifesto, and then
Okay.
soon afterwards, I started working with Jim Highsmith, another third author. And Jim Highsmith, of course, has become my sort of mentor and role model, if you will, in the Agile space. But one of the things that really made a definitive change was that once I'd started working with this, I partnered with one of my colleagues. Her name is Susan Woodcock, and she and I and Bob Payne, who's still a colleague today, and another gentleman, the four of us wrote a paper on agile project management, and we just wrote it and put it up on the web, and it started to get these hits from all over the world, because people were trying to figure out exactly how project management applied to agile, and that paper kind of launched my journey.
Wow, that's such an interesting one. I'm not surprised that you're a really what's the word now, established professional within the agile space and within the PMI space. Oh, well done. Now, my next question. I think you sort of alluded to that. Your aha moment with agile, saying, what, this looks like something for the future.
Okay, for this, I have to take you even further back in time. And this is prior to my experience with agile methods and prior to these working with these XP teams. I started my career working on base, on a military base here in a place called Petersburg, Virginia. I was working on a defense contractor. I was a developer, and I was working for this amazing project manager. And he, I think, invented, I want to say, by whether he knows it or not, many of the techniques that we know now call agile. So for one thing is that we would have daily meetings with our customers. Right? So these are lieutenant colonels, or if you, as you would call them in Britain, lieutenant colonels. And the customer, if you have a lieutenant colonel or a lieutenant colonel as customer, they're amazing. They're like a product manager, if you will, because they have the budget, they have the authority, and they can make decisions to work really well with your team. So one of the things that our manager was able to set up for us was this direct access and daily touch point with our customer. Right.
Right.
Today we would call it a daily stand up. We were sitting in co-located in earshot of each other. We weren't in the same sort of bullpen, but we could get up, go talk to each other, all the members of the team. We had an integrated team. We had developers, testers, project managers, and such. And the aha moment was 10 years later when I was working with these XP teams. I thought back to the way we used to work. And I thought, man, this was so much more fun when we worked in those, or in the early way. What happened to us in these 10 years? We became so bureaucratic, so disconnected from each other. And I said, this is not the way to work. And when we started looking at XP, it's like, well, this is how we used to do work before. It's natural. People enjoy working this way. We deliver value, we flow value. So the aha moment was, these traditional project management or product development techniques don't fit. They're not the right thing, at least not for me. And what was the right thing that I had stumbled upon, or was blessed to be in the right place again at the right time in that earlier 10 years before that, that was the way to work. And now we have a way to formalize that with agile methods.
Wow. Interesting. Interesting. Now, let's start getting into the body of our conversation regarding PMO. Now, Project Management Office has contributed immensely to organizations over the years. The original intent for which they were essentially set up is what I really want you to talk to as much as you can. Because obviously, I know things have changed. We say it's a VUCA world, but
Yeah.
organizations have been successful before we started this agile movement. So, how can we give some credit to that and the original intent of it?
Yeah, I think if we extend the term and from project management office, because sometimes it's also called the program management office, when people use the terms interchangeably, or the term
Yeah,
PMO, for both a project management office or sometimes a program management office. So if you think about this, a project is, in the classic definition, has a definite start, definite end. We want to work with stakeholders. We want to deliver something of value to our customers
Mhm.
and to our organizations. That's our project. Now, if you have multiple projects, then we combine them into a program. And what we're doing is we're working across these multiple projects
Yeah.
and trying to do the same thing, managing the dependencies across the projects and now dependencies across multiple projects and multiple sets of stakeholders, and aligning and delivering value to our organization. Right. So that was our original intent with project management offices and program management offices. And
Mhm.
so there are certain key disciplines that we tried to implement with those. One was the discipline of project management or discipline. We say, hey, here's a structured methodology, and here's how we would, have a phase-based delivery mechanism of delivering projects, project initiation, construction, elaboration, whatever, and then we go off and deliver it. And so, a project management, the contribution of the project management office was to say, well, let's figure out a way to standardize this so that we can deliver solutions or projects repeatedly and reliably. We can do it over and over again, but we can also have reliable results, right? And then we said, well, in those days we had the iron triangle, right? So the scope, schedule, and budget. We said, well, here's my project, here's the scope I have to deliver, here's the budget within which I have to deliver, and here's um, scope and the schedule, the timeline that across which I have to deliver. Right. So we said, well, now we have these projects, and now my PMO will help the projects that we're supporting deliver on time, within budget, and what our customers need. And we did a reasonably good job. But there's one thing that started to throw a monkey wrench in the works, or a spanner in the works, depending on which side of the Atlantic
Mhm.
we are. And that was the fact that we were trying to deliver to a fixed scope. That our customers started with it, said, "Hey, we need this fixed scope at the beginning of the project, and this is we're going to fix it. And now, when you come back to us, our PMO said, well, this is what we promised our stakeholders." But now it's 6 months later, or it's 9 months later, or it's 1 year later, and we're still delivering what our customers asked us for at that point in time. And so, even when we delivered on time, even when we delivered within budget, we ran into issues because we were delivering a scope that nobody needed anymore, right?
Absolutely.
So in spite of our best efforts and coming up with a disciplined way of and structured way of delivering projects and developing project management discipline, which was all wonderful, there was something inherently wrong with the environment that we were, because things started moving too rapidly, and we had to change things.
Absolutely. Things were moving so fast, but they were not evolving
Definitely.
fast enough. I mean, you talked about standards, and I would imagine that for organizations, especially the high reliability organizations, the HRO, standards are important. I mean, it's important for every organization. Compliance, highly regulated environment. I would imagine that this is still, quite important. But when we think of PMO today, I think it's about, are they still quite rigid and trying to control things in a rigid way, or are they moving towards the consultative end? So, in other words, like I just said, we could have highly regulated environments where you definitely need some kind of guardrails, and things like that. But are they getting that balance right? Because I guess we're not saying we don't need that kind of, activities anymore, but are they getting the balance right?
Well, I can't speak for PMOs across
Yeah,
the
yeah,
world,
yeah.
but I can tell you what my experience has been. And I'm actually going to extend the conversation here, not just from PMOs, or not just PMOs, to other regulatory organizations.
Yeah,
Like within the Scaled Agile framework, we have a LACE, a Lean Agile Center of Excellence.
yeah.
Or if you're doing other Agile methods, we have an Agile Center of Excellence. So if you think about an organization that's supposed to help either project teams or product teams come up with a methodology, keep in alignment with that methodology across multiple teams and multiple projects, whether it's a PMO or a LACE or an Agile Center of Excellence, all of these organizations are there to support delivery of value to our customers. And here I'm going to pull in something a little obscure and a little theoretical. So pardon my departure into a little bit of theory. But if our listeners and our readers can go and look up something called the Six Sigma paradox, the Six Sigma paradox. And the Six Sigma paradox says it's a paradox that what we need at the team level is flexibility. We need redundancy. We need experimentation. And if you think about it, that's what we need. We need agile, and that's what agile gives us at the team level. But the same thing, if we have the same redundancy, let's say multiple teams doing multiple solutions or working with multiple tools, it causes a huge amount of waste and problems at the level above the project or above the team. So that's the paradox. We need flexibility, redundancy, innovation, experimentation at the team level. But at the level above the teams, what we need is consistency. We need a standardized approach. And what we need is what we call a lean approach. So that's where our PMOs, that's where our Agile Centers of Excellence, and that's where our LACEs can contribute. They can say, what is the balance between a standardization of things at the level above the teams that will help us to deliver value faster with maximum velocity and minimum waste, right? And for that, we need lean. For that, we need the PMO, LACE, or Agile COE. But then we also need to make sure that we don't stifle the teams with too rigid solutions. So I'm not sure where PMOs are landing today, but I think the best organizations, whether the PMOs or Agile Centers of Excellence or LACEs, are working with their teams, and they're helping the teams standardize in a methodology across the enterprise or level above the teams, and delivering that so that all teams can work together and align and deliver towards business goals and business outcomes. But they're also allowing the teams themselves to have flexibility, to have innovation, to try different things, to experiment with different tools. And that's the Six Sigma paradox and the balance at which we need to standardize.
Absolutely. And that flexibility is really, really important, regardless of the level, really, because
Absolutely.
even at the team level, different teams, I think, should have a degree of autonomy. I mean, autonomy so that they can do things differently as long as it suits the context of what they're doing. But at the same time, we want alignment. I think that's the most important thing, to be honest. Are we aligned on the value we want to give?
Yeah.
Do we
And
have shared understanding?
I just want to add that
Yeah.
you really hit the nail on the head, because as different teams experiment with different things, they
Yeah.
will come up with new solutions, and the standard itself needs to change. Because just because we came up with a standard, it doesn't mean that standard is going to stay there for the end until the end of time. And the standard needs to evolve with changing circumstances.
Hmm.
And the way the standard can evolve, the experimentation has to bubble up. So once we give the autonomy and flexibility to teams, then they can evolve solutions that can then be incorporated at the enterprise level.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that great response there. We have a few um, listeners joining us. We have just want to acknowledge our audience. They're always here. Olayemi is here. Chanel Ania is here. Okay, so let's continue. My next question, if I can get my banner up. Now, project management. Project managers, they have unique skill set. How is this role evolving today?
All right. So uh, two letters, AI or Gen.
AI, I like that. It's interesting you say AI because the project manager role. I mean,
Yeah,
I remember the first time I tried to explain how this has evolved. I'm like, this role has now split into two. It's no
yeah,
longer just the project manager. Now that role has gone into Scrum Master and Product Owner role.
yeah,
But now we're talking AI, and AI has come into the picture, right?
yeah. That's true. So whether we think about this person who is helping deliver solutions or helping teams deliver solutions as a project manager or a scrum master or anything else, release
Mm,
train engineer if you're doing the scaled agile framework, um, what has happened in the last 12 months, and this is of course been building up, is the release of generative AI, and things are changing so rapidly. It's literally day by day change, not even a week by week or month by month, right? And I'm super excited to see that the project management institute, the PMI, they've released a certification on generative AI, right? And they said, well, here's a certification. We've moved quickly, and the organization, the PMI, can help project managers globally improve their skills. Now, you don't have to take the PMI certification. I'm certainly not plugging for that. But all of us should be looking, in particular, project managers, as ways to responsibly incorporate AI. And Tutu says AI is the big brother. Well, guess what? Facebook, Google, Meta, they're all big brothers, right? We have so many brothers over here, right?
yeah.
And what we need to do is to lead, right? My philosophy has always been, it's better to be inside the tent looking out than outside the tent looking in. So I want to make sure that all of us are thinking about how we can be inside the tent, AI tent, leading this in a responsible way so that we don't become victims of fraud or the unethical uses of AI. And instead, we can use AI to eliminate our mundane tasks or repetitive kind of stuff, and so that we can then become more creative, right? And so project managers, I think your question was, well, project managers have unique skill sets. There are two things that I think project managers can do really well. One is they can help us always be focused on our customers. What's the best way to deliver value to our customers, and especially now that we have generative AI? So what are some of our ways? What are some of the ways that we can create new skill sets, let's say, to prioritize our work, to create, if you're doing agile, to have product backlogs, to prioritize the product backlogs, to write user stories, to deliver the user stories, to create a product roadmap. We can incorporate AI into every single one of those tactical things so that we can have an AI boosted agile framework, if you will, or an AI boosted project delivery framework. So I think it's a responsibility of every project manager, and I see this role evolving very, very rapidly.
Yes, it is. And like you said, I like the way you put it. We should be inside that AI bubble looking out.
Yeah,
And it's all about how can we leverage AI. There's nothing to be afraid of when it comes to AI. Absolutely nothing to be afraid of, I feel, if we're constantly looking for ways to improve ourselves. And like I said at the beginning of the show, we are all highly resourceful, right? Which is
mhm,
why we're here talking about, all sorts of things that can help us improve. It's about, that growth mindset. It's about continuous learning and improvement. So if we're investing in that, then we have no reasons to be afraid at all.
yeah.
Now, how much more successful can agile transformations be if the PMO is actively involved and perhaps leading agile transformation?
Awesome.
What
So
might that look like?
yeah, so I'm going to interpret this question a little differently and say it's not just a PMO, but again, is it a Agile Center of Excellence, the release, or just very generically, is it middle management? Middle
Yeah,
management has gotten a bad rap, right? So
yeah,
people talk about managers being like a Dilbert character. People talk about the frozen middle. I don't see too many kind things being said about middle management, right? So we hear wonderful things about teams. We hear great things about agile teams. We admire executives who take us into the future, who lead this and say, "Oh, this so and so, she's a great visionary, or he's a great visionary." We don't say that about middle management, right? But think about this: nothing in our organization, especially in large organizations, happens unless middle management leads that change. We can have a great visionary and they can say, go take that hill, right? And then we have teams that are saying, oh, let's go take that hill. but how are we going to take the hill? What are the mechanics of how we can pull together to go take the hill? Is all enabled and decided and facilitated by middle management.
True.
Okay? And so agile transformations can succeed immensely more and not run into the kind of issues when we have middle managers who are in the middle of their solutions but also helping manage dependencies across projects. So let me give you some numbers. There are some statistics, and this is in our latest book, PMO to VMO, that says over 90% of change initiatives led by middle managers succeed. Over 90%. So imagine this. If we bring middle management on board, and that's the second part of your question, and they help us lead a transformation, over 90% of those initiatives succeed.
Wow.
And if we don't bring them on board, it's just the same thing as not bringing our executives on board or not bringing our teams on board. They're not all part of the solution. So ultimately, our transformation will wither and not succeed, and we'll just kind of either um, stumble along if you're lucky, or just crash and burn if you're unlucky. Right? So the is an agile transformation can be much more successful, and I'm not sure we can reach the 90% number. That's a great statistic, but wouldn't it be great if more than 50% of our agile transformation succeeded? And wouldn't it be great if we bring everybody into that tent, including our middle managers who work so hard to make things successful and to keep our teams happy and to keep the stakeholders aligned and to deliver value for our organizations.
Absolutely. And you know what? You sort of answered my next question. That's a very great way to put it. And I like how you highlighted on the middle managers, because I actually have a question around that,
Yeah.
about the strength of middle managers and how well are we harnessing that for business agility. And given what, the way you have just responded, we are definitely not harnessing that enough. If we would do more of that, then perhaps we will hit 70% or 80%, because year on year, right? Year on year, we hear about how transformations are failing.
Yeah.
And if we have within our organizations middle managers who really have the skill set, who can really hold that space for agility, why are we not harnessing it? Because you hear of what am I going to do with myself now? You hear of middle managers, like you said, they really do get a bad rap.
Yeah.
They are resistant to change. They feel that they're going to be redundant,
Yeah.
because now all of a sudden, they used to be responsible for 10 teams, perhaps.
Yeah.
Now these teams are self-managing, self-organizing. Where does that leave them? There's a huge void there in terms of harnessing, all the beauties they bring to the table.
Yeah. Uh, and like you said, I already talked to this before, but I want
Mm,
to add something here, and I also want to open it up as a challenge for all of us to do better, right?
yeah.
And this is to understand that we're talking about human beings. When we talk about middle management, it's not some obscure,
Mhm.
idea of somebody sitting in a corner office, or maybe executives in a corner, maybe in somebody sitting in a cube and sending out nasty grams to everybody. We're talking about human beings that
Yeah.
have to adapt to a huge amount of change. Their jobs are changing, as you said, with agile
Yeah.
teams moving forward and such. And so we have to understand that we talk about and we extend so much love to agile team members. We talk about psychological safety. We say, well, we have need to have empathy. Well, how about we extend the same courtesy and graciousness towards our middle managers, rather than
Absolutely.
calling them frozen middle, or
Exactly.
holding them up as objects of hate. How about psychological safety for middle management? How
Mm.
about empathy for middle management? How can we help middle managers, or whether I'm talking about whether it's project managers, directors, VPs? How can we help them do their jobs better? And therefore, it'll help us, because the moment we get that middle management layer moving and executing, all of us will do better.
Yeah, helping them redefine their role, as it
Right.
were. Because obviously, they've been managing.
Yeah.
And for me, I think the key message
Yeah.
for managers during this transition, transformation to the agile ways of working, is helping them understand their new role of
Mhm.
leadership. I
Yeah.
think it is much more now wearing the leadership hat
Mhm.
as opposed to the manager's hat. Having that leadership as, the coaching capabilities
Yeah.
that we need to help the teams grow. Having, if I can use the metaphor of a gardener, being a gardener to
Yeah.
help these flowers grow and bloom. So it is recognizing that we still need them,
Yeah.
and that they come from a place of so much experience and knowledge of the organization, that they focus as part of that transformation on how do we repurpose, if you like, the skills that they have, and help them redefine those skills. Very, very important. And yes, we need to remember that they are human beings. They also have families to feed, if you like. Um, Moving on. I think I already covered that one. So the next one. What inspired you to write the book from PMO to VMO? Now, VMO for our audience means Value Management Office, as opposed to Project Management Office or Program Management Office. Now, which managing for value delivery. Now, you co-wrote this book with Roland, is that Suella, and
Quail.
Audrey
Yeah.
Quella,
Yeah.
and Audrey Sacheri, right?
It's actually Roland Koyar and Audrey Sherry.
Oh, Audrey
Mhm.
Sherry.
Mhm.
Spelled so differently. I have a daughter called Sherry. My daughter is Sherry, and so
Ah, okay.
totally spelled differently. Anyway, so what inspired you to write this book? I love
Yeah.
it when people write great books, because for me,
Thank you.
it means you're my mentor. That's what it means.
Oh, thank you. Well, so Roland and Audrey and I had been working together for quite a while, and Roland, by the way, passed away of COVID 2 months before the book was released. So please send prayers into the universe
Yeah,
for him.
yeah.
But this is his legacy, and Audrey was a great partner to both of us in writing this book. But I wish I could uh, dial back the tape, because you said it better better than I could ever do. We said, well, we're not providing guidance to middle managers. We don't we're not letting them know how they can play a value adding role in this digital space, in this digital transformation, agile transformation. And so the three of us said, how can we now create a very practical guidebook or a blueprint so that middle managers can say, again, whether even though the book is titled from PMO to VMO, from project management office to value management office, again, I think the book has been written such that if you are in a LACE or an Agile Center for Excellence or any sort of middle management role, how do you move now to a value adding role, right? To how can you now create this organizational construct that we call a value management office and help our teams deliver value better together and help the organization and help ourselves as middle managers as well. So that's what really led us, the three of us, to write that book, to provide a clear guideline for middle management to make that transition and move to a leading role in agile transformations.
I did buy the audio copy, and for me, going through that, that was the one thing that I picked up,
Yeah.
that this is a book that guides you on how to really do those stuff, and it's something everybody should have on their shelf. If you are an agile coach, a scrum master, a leadership coach, anything to do with organizations, this is one book you definitely need on your shelf. Because, like we were saying just before we came on air, it's not about doing agile. This is about continuous
That's right.
improvement,
Mhm.
because the environment is going to constantly be, complex, as it is even more complex. So, how can we, build capability so that we can deliver value across board? Thank you so much, Sanjiv, for that very great response. So, like I just said, I invest in a lot of books, a lot of books. And to my right here, I've got a shelf which you can see full of nothing but books. I've got books from my university days in my shed, which I think I need to, make my way to the British Heart Foundation or something and give them away, because I don't think I'll be getting to those ones anytime soon. Reading is good, writing is good, because for me, I really do appreciate people who write, because it means you're trying to just download that knowledge
Correct.
You're trying to help people from a personal point of view and from a professional point of view. So one of the things I say is when you invest in people's write-up, you're essentially saying, these are my mentors, these are my, coaching partners. They are working with me on my professional journey.
Mhm.
So you are my mentor, Sanjiv, because I have invested in your book and
Thank you.
I'm going to be attending your meetups very soon because
It's very kind.
having gone through that book, honestly, I have gained so much already.
Mhm.
So if I approached you as a mentee asking for tips on helping an organization start their journey of evolving their PMO to a VMO, what top tips will you share with me? Two, three, whatever.
Yeah. So I want to answer this question in two ways. One,
Okay.
uh, what I'd like to do is to set the overall vision of maturity, right? Transformational maturity.
Mhm.
And so, what we do when we consider that an organization that starts with Agile or any other major change initiatives, underlying Agile methods is something called complex adaptive systems, a little bit of theory as well. And I'm sure
Yep.
your listeners will be familiar with this. So it basically
Yep.
says our team members and our teams are agents, they're working together, they have some simple rules, and they evolve as they go along. And the levels of maturity, we like to map them out as what we call fitness landscapes, right? And if you think of these as sort of mountain peaks, right? You go from one level of fitness or one mountain to the other, and it doesn't mean the mountain will stay the same. It might move, it might change direction, right? But let's say we start out a journey, and whether this is a PMO and we're trying to move to a VMO, what we're saying is that we might have an organization that is just starting out with the agile teams, agile methods, and that's a very basic level of ground zero, if you will. There, the PMO can say, now what we want to do is to help put together team agility, because that's our first fitness landscape. And then beyond that, the VMO, once there's a certain level of maturity, we move from team agility to portfolio agility. Remember, we're trying to put together a lot of teams, a lot of projects, and that this is multiple teams and projects. And once we have multiple teams and projects in another fitness landscape or another mountain peak, if you will, then the organization itself needs to become agile, and we'll call this strategic agility. So the journey, if you will, is from team agility to portfolio agility to strategic agility. And then once we get all those three things together, then we call this either business agility or enterprise agility.
Mhm.
So back to your question, how do you start? Right, we're starting from ground zero. We need to go to team agility, whether it's a PMO to VMO or again Scrum Masters working together. We the guidance that I would like to go, and I was trying to think of a simple metaphor to convey it today. So I don't know if you guys remember this old movie called The Karate Kid.
Yeah.
And so back in the day, The Karate Kid, right? And Mr. Miyagi's guidance over there is when he first starts, right? And it seems kind of simplistic: wax on, wax off, right? He tells the guy, go off, and it's like wax on, wax off. So that's the guidance I would give to a mentee. When you start at a team, right, an agile team, we have to move to wax on, and I call that shifting left. Let's bring in our business partners, wax on, shift left, get in our business partners, extend the team, wax off, shift right to agile engineering and DevOps. So wax on is a shift left to business, and wax off is a shift right to agile engineering and DevOps. And it might seem simplistic, but honestly, what that does, it lays that foundation for end to end team agility. And now we can start to say we can align those teams with value streams, and we can start to look at portfolios. But the journey has to be at the team level. If we don't have end-to-end teams, if you don't have integrated business partners, if you don't have integrated engineering solutions or service engineering, then we can't build on that. So my
Mhm.
guidance to any mentee will be wax on, wax off, shift left, shift right.
That's an interesting one. So what you're essentially saying there, if I got that right, is how can we give them more autonomy and how can we broaden that and remove some layers of bureaucracy all those layers that cause us, waiting and, a lot of waste, if you like. So that is where we should be looking first to say what could be blocking
Yep.
the teams
Hmm.
from an organizational point of view. What can they do on their own that
Yes,
we're currently still doing on their behalf, so to speak?
that's right. Yeah. And numbers here again, what we find is that there's an average of 9 silos to deliver value. So really what we're trying to do is to work across those
Yeah,
silos.
yeah.
And to your point, what can they do, either formally or informally, to get value delivered and get value flowing across the organization from stage to stage.
So
The
that's the first thing to look out for.
Right. And then once they have that, then we have to increase what we call the decision making velocity. Right. That's the bureaucracy,
Yeah.
the legacy of command and control management. But that's not where you start. We start getting value flowing across the team levels.
Okay. I get that, but someone else will say leaders go first.
Sure. And so the leader is going to say, I'm going to go, as a project manager, I'm going to go represent my team and teams. I'll go talk to my business partner, and I'll be talking to them about ways that they can work with us and collaborate with us and help us manage dependencies. How can we manage from a project management perspective? All we're saying is that we need to manage dependencies and accelerate the delivery of value across those silos.
Yeah.
And so leaders go first. Yes, go talk to our customers, go talk to our business partners, go talk to our IT partners, our deployment partners, and get together. And this is what the Agile Value Management Office is.
Mhm.
It is a team of teams.
Yeah.
So leaders go first. Yes.
Mhm.
And so what we want to do is to put together a team of teams that will now be looking across all of the silos and looking at waxing on and waxing off across the value stream.
Having a much more entrepreneurial approach, if you like. And as you were talking, and as I brought in the subject of leadership going first there, I was also thinking perhaps we could also
Yeah.
revisit our policies.
Yeah, everything has to change, right? So,
Mm,
so I'll give you a practical example. So, in traditional project management, the way we prioritize, our PMO will prioritize delivery. Will say, let's create over here. Many of our enterprise customers will create
mm,
what's called
mhm.
a book of work, and the book of work is nothing but a list of projects that says, okay, here's every project that I want to deliver over the next year. Now, the thing that we want to do as we move to an agile way of doing this is we say, well, we have to be able to eat the elephant. And the question that I ask people is, how do you eat an elephant? And the answer is one
Get your
bite,
fork and knife.
one bite at a time, right? We
Yeah.
want to move to smaller batches. So we say, rather than delivering projects, we'll now deliver chunks, increments of either product or a
Mhm,
service. And
mhm.
that's what we call a minimum viable product, or
Yeah.
MMP. But how do we prioritize that? What we do is we say, instead of a book of work, practically what we have to do is we have to change the process towards creating a portfolio Kanban. And this is the funnel of work that's coming in. It's smaller pieces,
Mhm.
smaller chunks of products or services. And we're going to work with our enterprise customers to prioritize. And we can flow the work because we're working on smaller pieces and we're talking directly to our customers. So that's something that has to change. It's not an easy thing, but that's where our program managers need to be involved. That's where our leaders on business and IT need to be involved. And we have to change the way we're working, because if we still try to deliver those big batch projects, and we still try to have a bunch of projects in a book of work, we're not going to be able to get anything done.
Yeah. And I guess the conversation about value stream and entrepreneurial approach will not be complete if we don't talk about funding or budgeting, if you like. Um, there is still, to a great degree, that, should I say, use it or lose it, like you also said in your book.
Hmm.
There's still some of that going on. How can the PMO transition into VMO? How can they address that quickly?
Yeah. So I don't know that they can address it quickly.
Okay,
It
but
is
address it,
the,
start addressing it.
yeah, the Business Agility Institute has a survey that they put out every year, and they say the biggest impediment to business agility or enterprise agility is the funding cycle, the
Yeah,
yearly funding cycle, right?
yeah.
So what we have to do is, once we have these groups of teams, and we call them value stream teams, right? we have to fund by value streams, but we also have to take into account the technical platforms that they're on, but fund by value streams and allocate by platforms. And so we need to move, our organizations need to move from funding by projects or programs to funding by value streams, because then what we can have is a teams or a set of teams that will be funded for the whole year. And then what we do is we flow the work to the teams or the groups of teams. And the teams are aligned by business value or by customer journeys. So we know we're delivering value. Our customers, our stakeholders, our business stakeholders, they have the reins in terms of what gets done, what doesn't get done. But what we also have is funding for our teams so that they can stay together, so that they're long lived, they're stable,
Yeah.
and they can work together, and they can work together across multiple projects and portfolios.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that came to mind as you were talking is talking about long-lived team, talking about value stream,
Right.
management. Um, I was thinking about how moving from project to product means that you have to release, if you like, the people reporting to you. There's also that issue of, how do we reorganize ourselves? Where do you belong? Which reporting line do you belong to? How, again, maybe not quickly, but how can we address the issue of, you know, teams coming together, but still considering their functional reporting lines, if you see what I mean?
Yeah. So in the book and some of the videos that we have online in training, um, we talk about creating this value stream team or team of teams, if you will, and setting it up as an entrepreneurial company within a company. So
Hmm.
we have multiple groups that are working together, and they have the authority and the funding to go off and deliver solutions, and of course coordinating with each other. But every set of value stream teams is a company within a company.
Okay.
And a great model, you'll hear people like Jürgen Apollo and others talk about the Hire company, in China, where they blew up their entire organization, and every smaller unit is a micro organization working on an enterprise platform to deliver values and co-create value with their customers. So in terms of reporting relationship, the thing that changes is that for project managers or for anybody who's in what we call a staff role, right? We have that Taylorist thinking of staff versus line. And we say staff people are the ones who think, and line people are the ones who do. And PMOs, we're going to think, but we're not going to do. We're not going to go deliver value. Or LACE or Agile Centers of Excellence, we're going to think, and the teams will do. There's no separation. Thinkers need to do, doers need to think.
Doers need to think.
so so that's the lean model. So
Hmm.
as these organizational reporting structures change, all of us, including our managers, need to take on some part of delivering value, some part of delivery, because then we won't be seen as an overhead group. And when cost cutting comes, you see who's getting cut. The Agile Center, Agile coaches are getting cut. The project managers are getting cut. That separation is unnecessary, and it's not helpful. If we are involved with delivery, then we're helping grow the pie, and we won't be seen as an overhead group, if you
Absolutely. Very good. Okay. Last words to keep the agility flag flying, both to experienced and aspiring agilists.
will. All right, we are at an interesting inflection point, right? We talked about AI, we talked about this rapid change. Right now, at least in the US, we have a sort of
Mm,
a depressed economic conditions. But I believe we have gone from the age of agile, where we have agile teams and agile methodologies, to an era of enterprise agility. We've already entered it, right? So uh, there are organizations that have implemented agile methods for 5 years, 10 years, and we had some of them speak at our recently concluded conference. And they're now talking about how they can have enterprise agility in the manner that we spoke about a few minutes ago, from team agility to portfolio to strategic agility. And whether we're experienced or an aspiring agilist, we should learn more about enterprise agility. This is end-to-end value streams, lean portfolio management, and adaptive governance.
Yeah. Very, very, very good response there. We need to understand enterprise and agility. We need to look into lean management because it's not just about iterative development or trying to go fast,
Right.
but how do we minimize waste?
Right.
Right? How do we seriously minimize waste, especially if organizations are trying to also save money and cut cost and all of that? It is so important. I can't even thank you enough, Sanjiv, for the time you have invested here. Now, Sanjiv is one of the authors of from PMO to VMO, Managing for Value Delivery. This is a book. I'm not saying this because he's my guest. This is a book you need to get. If you are an aspiring agilist, go get it already. If you are already an experienced agilist, scrum master, agile coach, enterprise coach, go get this book. It is a guidance. It's a practical guidance book. It is amazing. I have the audio copy because I wanted to get through it fast. So get a copy. You will not regret it. You will be happy you got one, and you will find it on Amazon. And of course, Sanjiv is on LinkedIn. So connect with him. Go to their website, Lightspeed. He's the CEO of Lightspeed, like I said before. Go to their website. I believe that is lightspeed.com,
Yes.
right? They have a monthly meetup as well. There's so much to learn from Sanjiv. So much. I'm going to be joining their newsletter, and I'm going to be joining their meetup as well. There's just so much to learn. And this is where we draw the curtain. And next Sunday, we have Dayo Adela Wotton joining us. She's been to so many conferences. She does a lot of volunteering. That is another good way to grow. And she will be joining us next week. And to our audience that have been here, thank you very much. We had Jos Lewis join us. Thank you. The book, yes, you need to get the book. It is the book. You need to get the book. Ronke says, thank you for another enlightening session to both of us. Thank you so much, Sanjay, for being our guest. We really appreciate you. Oluwayemi said, on point. Chanel, yes, yes, yes. Thank you for being here. We'll be getting the book. Definitely, Ronke, you need to get the book. You need to get the book. You will not, it's money well spent. And Tutu also, thank you for joining us today. Sanjiv, you're highly appreciated. Thank you for the time investment here today for on Sincerely Agile with Mary. We appreciate you. And thank you for all that you're doing for the Agile community. We're trying to do a little bit here too. So thank you so much. Ronke, everybody joining us, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. See you
Thank
again
you.
next
Take
week.
care.
All
Bye,
right.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.